Good evening, good evening, good evening. We start our day with the Lord and we end our nights with the Lord. Nightly reading is from Genesis 37 and 23. The topic is from the pit to the palace. When Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped him of his distinctive long garment which he was wearing. Then they took him and cast him into the well-lit pit, well-like pit, which was empty. There was no water in it. Have you ever been through something or been through something with someone or situation that should have killed you and you know you should be dead, but God kept you? That's what Genesis 37, 23, and 24 is saying. They threw him in a pit, in a well with no water in it. Every bone should have been broken in his body, but God. When Joseph's brothers threw him in the pit to die, God had other plans for him. Scripture says that even though Joseph was sold as a slave, he did not have a slave-like mentality. He still believed that he could do great things. Ultimately, he ended up second in command to Pharaoh, the ruler of all Egypt. How did Joseph get from the pit to the palace, you say? He got from the pit to the palace by remaining positive, refusing to have a negative energy, refusing to want revenge, refusing to have hatred in his heart towards his brothers. He also got there by being confident, by being jovial, by understanding that things happen, by allowing God to be God no matter what situation it is, no matter what circumstance it is, allowing God to be God. Only God can change the heart of man. Only God can take you from the pit to the palace. He also allows you to even be trusting when you shouldn't, or when you feel like you shouldn't, or you've been through something with someone that you shouldn't trust them, but you do. Trusting in God will allow you to trust in man and allow God to fight your battles. Make up your mind right now, this evening, to do something great for God. No matter where you started, you can have a great finish. If people have mistreated you, don't waste your time trying to get revenge. Don't allow them to make you like them. Don't allow them to make you have a heart of stone, or where God can't use you because you're harboring feelings that you really don't want to harbor, but because of the hurt you've encountered with these people, you're so afraid to let go and let God, that God can't use you either. If you want to get somebody back, pray for them and allow God to work it out in your favor. God will work things out in your favor, you guys. Joseph's brothers threw him in a pit to die. And if you read a little bit further, which I will highly suggest, it goes on to tell you how there was a famine in the land, and Joseph, because he became second in command to Pharaoh, he was able to feed his family. The same brothers that threw him in the pit, y'all, that threw him down in the pit with no water and left him to die. He cried because they didn't even know who he was. When God uses you, you change. You even look different, you talk different, you move different, you walk different. You are sometimes unrecognizable to your family. That's that whole saying, God make your enemy your footstool. Yeah, that's what happened. God made his family that left him for dead end up being someone had to come back. And he didn't get angry and didn't feed them. No, he fed them. He fed them, y'all. With love in his heart, he fed his brothers that left him to die. So, go from the pit to the palace. Love each other. Love one another. Forgive one another. And trust God enough and let him work it out. When you take time with God, God will take time for you. And he will give you a heart of peace, a heart of joy. He will give you freedom. He will give you freedom. You will not be in bondage in your mind. Like Joseph was not in bondage because he was not in prison. Even though he was sold to slavery, he didn't have a slave-like mentality. It all starts in your mind. Love God. He already loves you. Good night.